This portion of the news is brought to you by the new Shell and Lede, designed for extra miles.
With the 2015-2016 budget now passed in the House of Assembly this week, a prominent figure in the business community is weighing in. Here's Oscar Adderley.
In the proposed 2015-2016 budget, Prime Minister Perry Christie revealed a number of new initiatives designed to stimulate the economy. It's something Chairman of the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation, Gowan Bowe, says those in the business community must take advantage of. While overall he believes the economy is on the road to recovery, he still has some concerns with the new budget.
We see a number of areas that we have to be very cautious about. First one being is looking at growth at 2.3% in terms of constant dollars. In reality, in terms of current dollars, or what the average person would understand to be the dollars in your pocket, we're looking at 5.1% growth, and that's a tremendous amount to grow. And even on the 2.3, the IMF has since revised that, since he even gave the budget communication, to where they're down to 1.8. And I think we get caught up with too much of the relative terms, deficit to GDP, debt to GDP, and what happens if the GDP declines, which is going to be a situation this year. So the ratios are not going to play out in the manner that the Prime Minister alluded to.
Bowe says a significant amount of reclassifications is another challenge that has surfaced in this year's budget.
The deficit is being reduced, but we have recurrent expenditure increasing by $100 million, even after taking out the reclassification of $154 million from capital. The capital budget has increased by $64 million, and there are a number of items in there what I would call fat in the budget, or if you will, the gristle. When I talk about capital assets, I do need to replenish them. But is there a plan behind it? Is there an investment strategy? How are we going to pay for the debt?
While there's no cookie-cutter solution to solving the country's financial woes, Bowe is confident better days are ahead.
The Prime Minister's job is to preach euphoria. The Minister of Finance, however, is to bring reality. And I think this budget right now was the correct message from the Prime Minister as it relates to building confidence amongst the citizenry. But I believe we need the Minister of Finance, or the State Minister of Finance, to really bring it back to reality as to what happens if some of these things don't materialize.
In order to get the country's fiscal house in order, Bowe maintains the government must get spending back to pre-recession levels, but not at the expense of destabilizing the economy by cutting too deeply. In the meantime, he suggests that there needs to be better financial reporting and a program-based spending plan put in place. Oscar Adderley, ZNS Network News.
The Ministry of Health, in conjunction with the Department of Public Health, releasing the latest development on what it terms the misuse of an ambulance in Abaco. It was pointed out in a statement that the female medical officer who participated in the use of an ambulance to transport a high school graduate to her school prom was placed on administrative leave. The leave took effect on June 17th and hinges on the outcome of a full investigation. Prior to the decision, the medical officer was asked to submit a formal report regarding her involvement in the unauthorized use of the emergency medical vehicle for non-health related activity. The Ministry of Health says there is a zero tolerance for such misuse and abuse of public resources. Many observe as Father's Day and will use the occasion to honor fathers, paternal bonds, and the influence of fathers in society. And while it's a happy time for most, we are also reminded on this day that for many of our young children in the school system do not have a strong, positive male presence in their lives. But as Oscar Adderley tells us tonight, the teachers at the Centerville Primary School are doing something about it, as a matter of fact.
Presently at the school, our entire staff consists of 100% female personnel. And so we realized that we needed the male's presence in the school.
And it's on that premise that the Father Figures Assisting Children and Teachers FACT Club of Centerville Primary School was formed. Heading up the initiative is the school's vice principal, Jacqueline Riley Sands, who says the ultimate goal is to decrease the number of high school dropouts and youngsters involved in criminal activity. After reaching out to churches in the surrounding area, 27 men answered the call, becoming volunteers. For Errol Farquharson, Mark Wallace, and Willard Cunningham, the experience couldn't have been more rewarding.
To be able to support single mothers with just the presence of a male, especially in school, to encourage them and to give them a little guidance and direction as to how they are to grow and to also to seek God in all that they do, I think will make a tremendous impact on their lives. And I think this is a program that has far-reaching potential.
But it's been a blessing to do so. And as you do that, man, you pour a little love into them. The love you receive back is just off the chain, over the top.
Most of the crime are committed by young men, but because of the same initiative, I feel as though there'll be a turn in a positive direction.
On Saturday, the program's facilitators hosted the Kids to Facts First Family Fun Day. Prime Minister the Right Honourable Perry Christie, who is also the Member of Parliament for the Centerville and Farm Road constituency, was on hand to salute them for the work that they're doing.
It was important for me to come to celebrate it, that these are men who volunteer of their time to come in and to help this school foster the right image for male students in particular, being able to contribute to them. And the most important thing about it is they have seen demonstrated in the results, in attitudes and dispositions, the positive impacts.
Although they're just 6 months into the program, facilitators have already begun to see improvements in the students. But it's only the beginning, as it takes a village to raise a child. Sia Scatterly, ZNS Network News.
This Father's Day, Faith United Missionary Baptist Church and the Boys Club of the Bahamas honored 15 men who have played an instrumental role in the success of the Boys Club. These men say that no matter what is happening in our communities, they have a responsibility as Christian fathers to step up to the plate and execute the role that God has for them, which is to nurture and admonish their sons.
So we're trying to pull together fathers and sons together to be a positive role in the son's life.
If more of us will do that, to assist the young men, and then the fathers understand how important it is to mentor these young men, I think we'll have a better country.
More of us, I wouldn't say young men, I'm not a young man, needs to look more into the community and to mentor the young boys so that they don't go astray.
We just don't live for ourselves. We live for our family, we live for our children. That's what good fathers do. We try to put in place things for our family.
Over the years, Bohemian Society has become too fragmented from the churches and schools once attended, to which Junkanoo group people root for, making the need to find a cementing force is great. That coming from Prime Minister the Right Honourable Perry Christie. Yesterday, the nation's leader addressed the 65th Annual Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge session and the 51st Annual Order of Eastern Star Grand Chapter session held at the Super Club's Breezes. He encouraged those in attendance to provide a place where Bahamians can focus their attention on nobler ideals and live in peace and harmony, which can only be rebuilt brick by brick.
We have to recognize as leaders, those of you who are here as members, that we have an obligation always not to allow ourselves to be limited to the context of the organization that you belong to. Because by the very nature of who you are, that you are demonstrating togetherness and strength and oneness, which separates you apart from other splintered organizations.
Through giving young people encouragement instead of condemnation and making them feel good about themselves, co-chairman of the Urban Renewal Commission, Cynthia Mother Pratt, says young people will gain the confidence to feel they can move beyond their circumstances. She says when people feel better about themselves, it will result in a reduction in crime, which is a focus on the Urban Renewal program. She was speaking at an Urban Renewal hotspot exercise on Yellow Elder Park designed to bring the community together.
Some of the older ones, it might be impossible to reach them, but it's not impossible with these children, because if we get them at a very young age, prevention is always better than cure. And so if we can prevent them from becoming criminals, That's what's most important. And so we come into these areas where we look at these younger kids and we try to bring them along, letting them know you don't have to take the way of your older brother or your older sister. You can choose what is right. And so what we're bringing to you is an opportunity to choose what is right.
It may have been very hot and humid here in New Providence over the past few days, but if you didn't know, the official summer season began at 12:39 this afternoon. That marks the official start of the summer in the Bahamas. Today is also considered the longest day of the year. We should have about 13 hours and about 45 minutes of the day here in the Bahamas. That's a far cry from places like Fairbanks, Alaska, where the sun is up almost 22 hours. This summer or June solstice is caused when the Earth's North Pole is at its maximum tilt toward the sun, while at the same time the sun appears directly overhead at 23.5 degrees north latitude along the Tropic of Cancer, which just happens to cut through the Bahamas, specifically Exuma and Long Island. Since the sun's direct rays reach their northernmost point from Earth's equator, we see the sun follow its longest and highest path across the southern sky. Now, some Bahamians took the chance to hit the beaches today, but it won't start to get the hottest until after today. But it's going to take some time for the oceans and land to trap heat. And coming up in sports, light lookout, a look at softball and how the sun will play a major role in the season. You're watching the Bahamas Tonight, the weekend edition.